Coming up next, Filter, followed by X-Play at 11 and Unscrewed at 11:30.
It's Vietnam, 1967, and you're standing alone in the middle of the jungle as the sound of gunfire pierces through the air and the smell of death slowly surrounds you. It's World War II, and the battle for Berlin has begun. You're the unsung hero who, together with an alliance of countries, will help shape the course of history forever. Prepare to fight for your life as the battle for the most realistic military game ever unfolds right before your very own eyes on Filter. I'm Diane Mizota, and welcome to Filter, a hand-picked top 10 video game countdown as voted on by you, the viewer, at g4tv.com. Now, for most of us, the idea of being on the front lines of a major war with nothing but an AK-47 and a canteen is freaking crazy. But we also find it completely fascinating, which is why there's no shortage of military games on store shelves. From World War II to Vietnam, game companies give every war buff and gamer the one thing the real military can't: the ability to start over. Before we get to your top 10 reasons to aim, shoot, duck, dodge, tuck, roll, and fire, we solicited some of your fellow comrades to give us their scoop on realistic military games.
If you're gonna make a war game, or any historical game, it should be accurate as possible.
Having people who make the games actually study military tactics, weapons, and how they shoot.
Graphics and sound. When you have good graphics, that's visual immersion. When you have sound, you have situational awareness. You know where things are coming from.
The biggest thing in military games is artificial intelligence. There's a huge difference when you feel like you're just shooting at, stationary targets. A guy pops out from a rock, you shoot him, another guy pops out from a rock. But when you feel like there's actual other real thinking things out there, that makes a huge difference towards feeling like you're actually, in a war.
You gotta have a historical context. Unless it's based on a real campaign, it's not gonna feel real.
Favorite setting for a war game would probably be World War II. There's such a well-defined good versus evil.
Realistic military games are really popular right now just because of what's going on in our country, the fighting in Iraq. People are seeing it in the news and they're hearing about it a lot.
We're all keyed into it, and I think that's what makes military strategy games and military action games very popular these days.
As your commanding officer, it's time I lead you into Southeast Asia and introduce you to our first casualty. Viet Cong throws you and an elite team of special forces into the pit of the infamous Vietnam War. As the leader of one of the finest forces ever assembled, it's your duty to get everyone out alive. But no pressure, you can always just hit the escape button. Basic training has ended with Viet Cong at number 10.
Viet Cong, now that one, it's interesting. The very realistic thing about it is the graphics, it's the terrain. You're very impressed by the trees, by the vegetation. You won't see that in other games. It does look very realistic graphics-wise.
It's not like World War II. It's not like Desert Storm. It's in the jungle, and then it's the Viet Cong, and you're just on your own. The Vietnam War overall was, it's totally different, It's just more stealthy, and here's a perfect game to show you how hard it was and what American soldiers had to go through.
I mean, of course, we know the aftermath of it, but to have the actual experience to see what it was like pretty much firsthand, as close as I'm going to get to seeing it, is something that's very interesting to a gamer.
Well, we escaped the unpredictability of lethal jungle warfare, but the battle for number 1 is far from over. Our next fight for survival pins us to the heart of World War II's theater of operations. And thanks to the world of mods and a little company called Valve, offices around the world have a reason to close at 6. So prepare your PCs for the latest patch as Day of Defeat blows up at number 9.
Day of Defeat, I think I know why it's so popular. It's because it was free for the longest time. It was like a Half-Life mod. It was around the same time as Counter-Strike, and it started off as sort of a community project, and People just got into it because it was free, and it actually turns out to have really good gameplay too, so it helps.
Half-Life itself was a good game, but Day of Defeat brought a lot more realism to it, and you got all the Nazis and you get to shoot them.
I thought it was super realistic, and it was really just good old-fashioned shoot-'em-up fun, but you had the team play going on with the Axis versus the Allies.
I think Day of Defeat is one of probably the best mods out there for Half-Life at Counter-Strike. Really wonderful, wonderfully addictive as well. Very, very fun game.
It's not only time to make our way from the PC to the PS2, but from the trenches of World War II to the midst of Desert Storm. Number 8 on the countdown thrusts you into urban combat, high-risk rescue operations, and some serious scud hunting. So choose your sniper and rifleman carefully, because Conflict Desert Storm is a deadly one.
Conflict Desert Storm is an interesting game, especially in the context today, because it's basically the campaign of the Desert Storm in the 1990s. And apparently you can take out the Iraqi army in that game, so obviously stuff that happened today wouldn't be happening if we were able to clean it up like we did in Conflict Desert Storm.
Yeah. Yeah, Conflict Desert Storm, it came out at a great time. I mean, it came out right as we were going to war with Iraq, so it even had a mission where you take out this Saddam-like leader. So I completely understand why it sold so well.
Armchair patriot type stuff, you know. People wanted to sort of be there but not be there.
Thought commanding a 4-man squad on the U.S. Delta Force would be such a hoot. We've been granted a short leave, and frankly, we need a little time to gather our courage as we head into the middle of the countdown for the most realistic military games ever. We'll see you soldiers on the other side of the break. That is, if you have the guts to return. Welcome back to Filter. I'm Diane Mizota, and we're counting down the most realistic military games of all time. The rankings for Filter shows come directly from the responses you post on the G4 website. To make your vote count, log on to g4tv.com/filter and select the Filterator. Then choose a category, vote on a scale of 1 to 10, and we'll take care of the rest. While you're there, be sure to post your suggestions for topics and games you'd like to see covered in future episodes. Back in 1985, Ronald Reagan was beginning his second term as president, and a barely known politician named Mikhail Gorbachev was taking over the Soviet Union. But Gorbachev was a reformer, and well, that didn't sit well with many of the communists. And thanks to video games, what happened next was up to you. Operation Flashpoint Cold War Crisis on the PC fires in at number 7.
Operation Flashpoint Cold War Crisis is one of my favorite PC games, military shooters ever, because it's the only game I know of that throws you on this island, this huge island, where you can basically get up in a helicopter, fly up, and see the entire place. You can see like every tree, every house. It's a huge island, and you just have free reign to run around and do your own thing. But you can actually, like, if you wanted to, you can climb this mountain and snipe people, or you can just go down in the valley. And it's incredible. You can get into any vehicle. And it's set in the 80s, so, you know, this whole 80s revival thing, I think this game would fit really well.
It's really good to have a modern war game. I mean, the weapons are more current. It's a conflict you can believe is actually happening. You're situated on an island that is entirely realistic, and that's a very important aspect of the game.
Although the Cold War crisis was historic, no war has been as influential in video games as World War II. And no series has dominated like Medal of Honor. It's quite a task to keep the Germans from learning vital secrets about your operations, all the while avoiding what feels like an inevitable death. The multi-platform Medal of Honor series storms in at the 6th spot.
Medal of Honor, the series in general, is great for a lot of reasons. One of them is just production value. You can really tell how much sound makes a difference in games like Medal of Honor. Also, the setups are very believable. It's usually based on some historical fact. It sets up these real exciting movie-like sequences, storming the beach at Normandy or waking up in a aircraft carrier in Pearl Harbor. You know, those are really exciting moments that it lets you play out.
They spent a lot of time making it cinematic, so it feels like you're actually in the World War II era, and all the sounds of the weapons and everything.
That's the cream of the crop when it comes to Warsons these days. I mean, they got a great game going there, and definitely would like to see more of that.
To some, throwing your body in the middle of rapid gunfire to save a fellow soldier is unbearably intense. But to others, being interviewed for this show is. The Filter team hit the road to find out what you think the most unrealistic military games are.
To me, an unrealistic military game is intense. It feels like an arcade shooter, but there's nothing at stake.
Some military games are unrealistic on purpose, just for humor value, like Armed and Dangerous.
Counter-Strike. It's very unrealistic, but it's fun. You play it because it's fun, not because it's realistic.
Army, man.
Probably Metal Gear Solid 2 Sons of Liberty. It was more of a stealth game, but the fact that you could get shot and then eat a ration and be fine, or the fact that you could knock a bunch of guards out and then leave the room and then they get up like nothing happened.
Who's there?
I don't know, Beachhead? That's pretty unrealistic. I mean, you're not going to be sitting in the machine the whole war. You got to get the hell out of there.
As you just witnessed, it's tough to get gamers to agree on anything, unless you're talking about SOCOM 2 U.S. Navy SEALs, where as an elite SEAL commander, you have the best weaponry, technology, and training available to protect freedom across the globe. Now that's good for the ego. SOCOM 2 U.S. Navy SEALs crawls its way into our PS2s and secures the middle spot as we head into the Sweetest 5 presented by Juicy Fruit.
SOCOM 2 is one of my favorite games right now. It's great single player, you're in command of a team, you use a voice headset to issue your orders, so you're getting other orders and feedback over the headset, so you really feel like you're there. Online, it's just so incredibly addictive. You can talk to your other teammates, everybody works together, cooperating, set up traps, ambush people, cover each other, fight in pairs. It's just a really exciting, fun online experience.
It's about teamwork, and that's really what military operations are about. You need your teammates in there, and communication is really important, and I think those are the type of things that make the game really realistic.
The U.S. Navy SEALs had nothing to do with this game, but the squad from Medal of Honor did. For the first time, World War II is captured from different perspectives: American, British, and Russian soldiers. From stealth to all-out assault, some say it's a choice, but others call it a duty. Call of Duty sneaks into hard drives at number 4.
Call of Duty, the newcomer to the World War II genre, is a very, very, very good game. It's so convincing, it's so immersive that the first time you play through it, you're just gonna be blown away. I mean, I've known friends that have just basically not slept the whole night, played the game, gone to work, and talked about it all day, and done the same thing again. So it's a really, really addictive, good, quality title.
It's more of a team-based shooter. Like, you'll have a sniper covering one area, then another team works with them. There's a lot of different objectives, and you have to achieve it.
It was just a lot of fun to play. I mean, it was just very responsive. The weapons were realistic. They were easy to get used to, but they weren't too easy. And that was what I thought was cool, is you weren't going to get hit just because some guy was really good with the mouse.
Well, unfortunately, it's our duty to let our sponsors smother you with their love. But upon our return, we'll find out if an infamous novelist has what it takes to snake the top spot, or if the year 1942 is one everyone will remember. Stick around and find out when Filter returns.
First, I won. Cool. What prize you win? Well, if you won, you must get a prize, right? Oh, no. Congratulations on your no prize, didn't win nothing victory. Oh, man.
Hey, I won a game rental at Blockbuster.
Looks like you playing the wrong game, brother. Show him my motto.
Play Sprite's Thirst Out Under the Cap game. 1 in 6 will score cool stuff like free game and movie rentals at Blockbuster. Music downloads, even ringtones.
You're still a winner to me.
Really?
No.
Welcome back to Filter. I'm Diane Mizota, counting down the most realistic military games ever. With only the top 3 remaining, let's zip open the body bags and find out which games have turned in their dog tags. Viet Cong lost its stamina early on and bails out into the 10th spot. It's the moment of truth and a day of defeat for Valve's coveted mod. It sneaks into 9. Number 8's being repped by the first console game to make the lineup, Conflict Desert Storm. Operation Flashpoint Cold War Crisis pulls in the longest title and holds tightly to number 7. Number 6 is tough enough to hold an entire series with Medal of Honor. Enlisting itself into the land of elite, SOCOM 2 U.S. Navy SEALs pushes in at 5. And well, if you can't beat them, join them. Call of Duty spawns its way into number 4. So it's official, those 7 games have succumbed to the competition. There are only 3 spots remaining, and just like a great game of Capture the Flag, if you aren't number 1, then you suck. Unless, of course, your game stars a CIA operative by the name of John Clark. Tom Clancy's Rainbow Six is no longer running with the dogs and falls in at number 3.
Tom Clancy's Rainbow Six a little bit more of a counter-terrorist operation, and it's a lot of micromanaging, a lot of going back and forth between men and stuff like that, so that's probably what real counterterrorism is like.
It's much more realistic where you're waiting, you've got your gun pointed, waiting for a guy to come through that door, and when he does, you shoot him. So not like a run-and-gun arcade shooter, but still really fun.
Sniper, sights are hot. Sniper, target lost.
The AI is like incredible. If you throw a grenade, they'll throw it back.
It gives you a very realistic perspective into how special forces work. And that's speaking from someone that was in the Army Reserves and who worked with special forces people.
Before we get to the biggest dogfight of them all, let's take a quick look at what our futures hold, with a glimpse into Full Spectrum Warrior.
The idea for Full Spectrum Warrior came from the U.S. Army and came from our project lead who read Black Hawk Down. And Black Hawk Down has been giving us a lot of inspiration for setting the mood and the style of gameplay and really trying to bring an actual war to life on a video game console.
It's an entertaining simulation commissioned by the U.S. Army. We were kind of commissioned to create something that was both had training value but was also entertaining, and it had to be played on a video game console because they wanted to disseminate it to the troops in the field.
They wanted to be able to teach their soldiers critical decision making in today's type of wars, which are not on big battlefields anymore. They're in downtown Baghdad. Everyone seems really excited. In fact, I was just standing over by a kiosk a few minutes ago and they saw Full Spectrum Warrior being demoed and they go, oh my God, that's an amazing game. That's exactly the kind of reaction I want to hear, and I'm glad it's being showcased at this event.
At the beginning of this countdown, there were 10 games fighting for the right to win the war of the most realistic military game ever. And like a bullet to the back of the head, 8 are no longer with us. Only 2 remain. Have you enlisted America's Army, the PC game created as a recruitment tool that doesn't cost you a dime and gives you a chance to be all that you can be? Or have you chosen to storm the beaches of Normandy, where driving tanks across the deserts of northern Africa is part of your daily duty with Battlefield 1942? So do you want to get an edge on life, or do you prefer the drama of WW2? It's time to find out as America's Army meets Battlefield 1942 in another Filter Face-Off.
America's Army, when this game was first announced, I was a bit scared. Having the Army make a game free so that they can recruit young gamers into the military, I mean, it was a little too surreal or something, you know, but luckily it's a very good game.
They definitely wanted to go for the realistic aspect, so some of it's way too real, where like, you know, you're firing a grenade launcher and then you have to reload it and you're just kind of sitting there waiting the guy, you know, reload. And, but, you know, just because they wanted to go for the realism.
Between 1942 and America's Army, I definitely say America's Army because it was developed by people that work in the Army, and everything based around it is as realistic as they could possibly make it.
Personally, I would pick Battlefield 1942 because, you know, vehicles, because huge maps. You have the ability to fly planes, to drive jeeps, to drive tanks.
It's just all-out chaos. I mean, people are just running around. They'll jump in an airplane, and you can fly around in the airplane. You get off the airplane, run over to a tank, get in the tank, mow a bunch of people over, get out, fire away, shoot a little bit, and get back onto the plane, fly over to the other side, get in the tank. I mean, it's a crazy, crazy game.
Battlefield 1942's got much better gameplay. It's got all kinds of vehicles you can drive, huge team-based missions, capturing objectives, capturing spawn points. I pick Battlefield 1942 of America's Army hands down.
At ease, soldiers, the polls are closed, the votes are counted, and the most realistic military game of all time is Battlefield 1942. So you have spoken and we have heard. Battlefield 1942 is officially the most realistic military game ever made. That wraps up this episode of Filter. Remember, the opinions expressed on this show are yours, not mine. So make your vote count on future episodes by logging onto the Filter show page at g4tv.com/filter. Until then, I'm Diane Mizota, and I'll see you next time.
Join G4 Tech TV as we look at the games taking this year's trip to G4ia, the awards show for gamers. This week, meet the nominees for Best Sports Game, Soundtrack, and more. Join in the journey starting tomorrow at 8 p.m. The Road to G4ia Volume 3, presented by EB Games and Jeep.
Coming up next, X-Play, followed by Unscrewed at 11:30 and Anime Unleashed at midnight.